Okay. Thank you, and very good evening to every one of you. It's a proud privilege for once again for me to welcome Dr. Ajay Kakar on the stage. So as the honorable guests, you already know that this is our initiative to bring in the best in dentistry from India and abroad. And we have started the Upper Crest, which is a unique one of its type program that has been conducted almost like the 4 weeks in the past, and then we have already set our tune right for the coming in 12 more sessions to go. So we have already seen the first 4 sessions going in with a huge number of participations from all across the country, and of course from the adjoining country Nepal. And continuing the same momentum, we expect the participation and the questions the way they keep on coming to keep on coming to us, and it will be our endeavor to answer each and every question that comes to us and getting it answered from the stalwarts and the experts, and kind of present it to you. The Upper Crest QR code for joining on the WhatsApp group has already been initiated, and it has been continuously flashed on the registration link. So there, all the honorable delegates, you can join, and of course, you can throw in your questions over there as well. So without much ado, it's once again my proud privilege to get this. I mean, leave the dais for Dr. Ajay Kakar, who needs no introduction. So today it will be all in all Dr. Kakar who will be talking about the newer initiatives in his most favorable subject area. And I was told that there are some newer things which have never been spoken on any platform are ready to be presented. So a warm welcome to you, sir, and over to you for the today's session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Nishant, for the lovely introduction. And good evening to everybody. It's lovely to see all of you over here today in big numbers. I'm sure the numbers are big. Nishant is going to let me know, but the numbers are definitely going to be big. In spite of the quarterfinal match, sort of a quarterfinal match between India and West Indies. But the best part is the webinar and our talk lecture will be all done by the time India comes to bat. So we will be in time to see the Indian batting possibly. But right now, let us focus on biomaterials in the way to regenerate the lost bone, the lost periodontium, the lost periodontal ligament, the lost cementum, etc., where we have a huge bony defect. So we are going to talk about bony defects today and what we can do for these bony defects. Let us start with repair, regeneration, and what we call as guided tissue regeneration. There's a difference between regeneration and guided tissue regeneration. I'm sure most of you know about this. If you don't know, you will know about it very soon. GTR is a process whereby the principle that tissues have the natural inherent ability to repair themselves if, the biggest if over there, if allowed to do so without anything interfering in the place. If there is no interference, tissues will heal and repair. But the problem is, if you let tissues heal directly, it doesn't work very easily. You have to meddle around a little, mess around a little bit, and then achieve it. This is, by the way, Dr. Thorkild Carring. Now, if you have read Perio, the standard book for Perio that all of you read, I won't ask you the question. Everybody knows it. It is called Glickman Carranza. But if you do a little bit of advanced study of Perio, you have to read Dr. Jan Linde, Dr. Thorkild Carring, and Dr. Klaus Lang's book, which is called Contemporary Periodontics. Now, Thorkild Carring is the biggest name. He is more senior to Dr. Jan Linde, and Dr. Jan Linde clearly accepts and admits that Dr. Thorkild Carring was a pioneer in guided tissue regeneration. I was lucky enough at some point of time in life to meet up with Dr. Thorkild Carring. I had dinner with him, and it was one of the most excellent and brilliant dinners that I had. And he shared so many inputs with me about periodontal regeneration. So I'm going to talk about it to you. Now, a CT scan showing the erupting. I hope I'm in contact. Yes, I am in contact. I'm still online. A CT scan showing the erupting maxillary molar capped by a thick layer of enamel. The other molars
Sir,
show wear
the
of.
screen's not.
It should work. Mine is working. Working now?
No, sir, it has to be on the presentation mode.
It is in the presentation mode. Should I stop sharing and share again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sharing it again.
Visible, sir.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the tip off. Okay, this is a classic. This is a very classic pocket. It's a infra-bony pocket. Can everybody see my cursor? I hope so. You can see the cursor.
Yes,
My
sir,
cursor
visible.
is my cursor is where the perineal probe is, but the probe is about 3 millimeters inside. So this is a classic, one of the best pictures that I have. It's not my picture, but I've seen this picture. It's a beautiful picture to demonstrate an infra-bony pocket. Now these are the kind of infra-bony pockets that we save. And now along with that is my own picture taken by me and during one of my works that I did, periodontal regeneration that I did. And I think it is equal to in quality to the other picture. See this classic bony defect and see this big defect inside. This is tissue which I am granulation tissue which I'm going to remove, which I'll show you in the future slides, in the next few slides. And you can see the classic defect. These are the kind of defects that we want to repair. This is a crazy situation. What you people see here is a tooth without any bone. There is no bone left, but we are in the position to regenerate it. Because I splinted the teeth, I have not spoken about splinting so far, but we can, after splinting, we can regenerate this tooth. And this tooth can be actually salvaged. Instead of losing a tooth and trying to put an implant there where the bone height ratio will be very, very compromised, we get a perfect tooth over there. We have to do a little bit more scaling, as you realize over here. This area has to be scaled, which I will scale and complete it, and it will be perfect to regenerate. But these are crazy cases. These are cases that I have taken up in life and attempted to save it, and this tooth is still surviving, believe it or not. This tooth is still surviving. So I'm very surprised that it's surviving still. After 10 years, it is still surviving. No, more than 10 years, maybe 14 years, it is still surviving, which is great. So success in GTR. Most important is case selection. Now, what I would like to point out here is, just a moment, I will. The previous case that I said, showed you just now, the tooth with the totally zero bone, those are not really cases to do for GTR. But I put them because it was a challenge for me. So I put up the case and it worked for me. But it does not mean that it will always work for me. I try to do such fun, weird cases where I have taken permission from the patient. I've told the patient I'm trying something. Let's hope it works. I don't guarantee anything. And things are fine. If they work, if they don't work, I always have an option of putting a bridge or an implant over there. What is happening? The second is which surgical method you select. If you select the correct surgical method, it will do well. It will do well. We will see the surgical methods. We'll see the materials that we choose, the materials that are necessary for good regeneration. Material choice, as I said. My focus is which are the available biomaterials. We have to look for the available biomaterials, select the right biomaterials, and get the right case done. Now, what are the available biomaterials? We have a host of biomaterials. Let me just run through them. we have a number of membranes. Thorkild Carring was a classic person who created a specific membrane. It's a lovely membrane that he created. So it was one of his innovations to create a membrane, which can be collagen based, polylactic acid, atrisorb, resolute. There are about 4 different kinds of membranes. Then there are non-resorbable membranes, which are EPTFE, basically Gore-Tex and Tefgen. And some people, believe it or not, I've actually got printed articles in peer-reviewed journals where they have actually used plumbing tape. Believe it or not, you will be shocked and surprised. I'm sure you won't believe it, but I'm put it on a slide over here, so it has to be correct. We have used plumbing tape. Even I have tried using it once, but I did not opt for it too much because I said I know PTFE is basically plumbing tape, but it is expanded PTFE in the right form. Just plumbing tape doesn't work. I don't believe it works. Then we have got bone fillers. Bone fillers can be autografts. Autograft means taking it from somewhere in the body itself. Usually it is taken, harvested from some of these sites in the mouth itself, and you do an autograft. For autografts, we have got cortical bone chips, cancellous bone, either of the two work. Then you have got allografts. What do we have in allografts? DFDB, lamb bone. DMFDB is demineralized freeze-dried bone. Lamb bone is something similar, slight variation. Then we have got xenograft. Xenograft means it's bone, but not coming from the same species. This is called bovine bone, bioos or pepgen. And then we have got alloplastics material. What is an alloplastic material? It's a synthetic material. That means why do I love it so much? I love an alloplast material, the first one listed over there, bioactive glass, because it has got no organic component. Since there is no organic component, there is no chance of any strange thing happening. It all works very well. Then we have got tooth defect conditioners. That means something which you can condition the surface with, the surface of the tooth, which does not allow the epithelium to grow over there and allows regeneration to happen. There have been a lot of work done with this, which is called emdogain, or other material is simple, plain, good old citric acid. Now I'll give you a small example. I have used citric acid all the time in the world. And it works beautifully because I use it in combination with everything else. It's not just that I use only citric acid. Citric acid is used as an enhancer. So it works very well. Then we have got growth enhancers. What are growth enhancers? Platelet-rich plasma is one of the best growth enhancers. And we have got bone morphogenic proteins and various growth factors which can be used. Now, what is the predictability of biomaterials? Claims of success. This is a claim of success. Now let us define success. Clinical define success means you have to make out what is really a successful job. If you don't have junctional epithelium progressing down the pocket, then it is not a success. If you don't have junctional epithelium and you've got solid bone growing over there, it is success. We have to read between the lines and check the fine print. And when the fine print is properly read and properly working, it works very, very well. Very, very, very well. So let us see the bone repair mechanism, the cascade reaction for bone repair. I'm just going to hurry a little bit in this part because I want to bring to you all the different materials that we have got. Now, what happens in the bone repair mechanism? There's a migration and binding of the mesenchymal progenitor cells at the site. You understand by what I mean by that? The mesenchymal cells are the progenitor cells. These are the cells which differentiate into everything. These will differentiate into osteoblasts. So the biochemical activation of the cells is followed by the proliferation of the mesenchymal cells which have changed into osteoblasts. Differentiation of the cells into fibroblasts and osseous progenitor cells. Sorry, I missed. Yeah. Okay. These are the 3 points in the cascade reaction for bone repair. Once you have achieved this, you have hit the final end result that you wanted. Now, let us look at all the materials one by one. The first is autogenous bone. Autogenous bone, from where do you harvest? You could harvest it from the chin. If you are replacing or doing something on the uppers or the posterior backside, you can harvest it from the chin. You take a deep incision, you open up the bone, you take some cortical bone plate out, you dig out some cancellous bone and put it as a defect. There's an inorganic component in it, there's an organic component in it, and what you get is a sequence of 15 amino acids out of the so many amino acids in type 1 collagen. These 15 amino acids work in the autogenous bone. Now, my question is, this is the main area of dispute. Everyone has considered autogenous bone as the ultimate gold standard. What is the best is autogenous bone, they say. Everything else should be compared with autogenous bone. I do not believe in it. My question is osteoblastic or osteoclastic activity? I would like a question to be thrown out to everybody. What do we see in autogenous bone regeneration? Nishant, if you can get some questions, some answers for this, osteoblastic or osteoclastic activity. This is a big bone of contention, and I would like some responses if possible.
Yes, sir. Waiting for answers.
Yes. Just think about it. Think about it. Tell me, osteoblastic or osteoclastic activity? I'm sure everyone cannot be so silent. Some people should respond. Any responses, Nishant, so far?
Waiting, sir.
Okay, still waiting. I'm going to wait for another 30 seconds or so. And then I will proceed. So I think people are confused. You're not sure whether they're osteoblastic or osteoclastic activity.
We got the response. I think
Yes,
Dr. Tumpa Biswas from Calcutta says osteoclastic.
yes.
And there's another response from Dr. Ignita Mukherjee from Raniganj. I mean, she says both.
Wonderful. The person who said both is correct. The person who said both is correct. There is an osteoblastic as well as osteoclastic activity which happens when you use autogenous bone. Now, when you use autogenous bone, this is the problem that I have with autogenous bone. You think you put bone there, but that's not bone. That bone is going to be replaced by natural bone later on. How much of natural bone? No assurances, no guarantees, no. We cannot presuppose that we put X amount of bone, we will get X amount of bone over there. This bone does not convert into natural bone subsequently. This will be taken away by the body by the osteoclastic activity and replaced by natural bone. In this replacement process, the bone which has been put, let's say 100% bone has been put, that falls down to 50% at least. So this is the main disadvantage of osteoclastic, of autogenous bone, which has got osteoclastic activity along with osteoblastic activity. And then, of course, there is a problem of harvesting a donor site. A donor site means a new wound. Let me put some spanner in the works over here. I have read so many articles, but nobody talks about what happened to the donor site 6 years later. Nobody, not a single person has written about that. And I'm sure there are issues in the donor site, but it has been just accepted. Nobody talks about it, so nobody knows about it. But I don't accept it at face value. I want to know the results. What happened to the donor site? Let's look at DMFDB. Now, what is DMFDB? Demineralized freeze-dried bone. Now, what is demineralized freeze-dried bone? Basically, what it is you take bone from a same species, but a person who has passed away. So you harvest the bone from there, and then being who passed away. So you have to do something to the organic component, and you by doing something to the organic component, you play around with it. So this is called DMFDBA, demineralized freeze-dried bone from other donors, and the ability to induce bone appears to be age-dependent, with the DMFDBA from older donors being less likely to have strong bone-inducing activity. Now, even DMFDB is also basically a scaffold on which the new bone will form. It is only a scaffold on which the new bone will form. So the same repair which we are dependent upon has to take place effectively to get bone repaired over here. Now we see a lot of things about DMFDBA. I can show you so many points on it, but I will not go into fine details of it. But I can tell you that there is a big variation in what you get from DMFDBA in real life clinical situations. The bone is not always what you thought it will come out to be. So DMFDBA is also having its own issues and problems. And there is one small thing. See the last line which I've written over here. This last line says Pacific Coast Tissue Bank. What is the Pacific Coast Tissue Bank? It is one of the largest places which gives you different forms of DMFDBA. And what did they do recently? This is not recent. This happened about 14 years ago. What happened? They withdrew all its stocks because they found some cross infection happen. Now, do you want to take such a chance? No, I wouldn't want to take such a chance. I would never use DMFDBA in my regeneration. Then we have got something called as bovine bone. Now, what is bovine bone? Bovine bone is something that we get out of what? Cows. High porosity, large internal surface, fine crystalline structure, lot of remodeling done to natural bone via the cell-mediated resorption, etc., etc., etc. Now, BioOS is a very famous material, and lot of people who are here have possibly used BioOS for bone regeneration, and they totally depend upon the testimonials given by some few people regarding BioOS. Now, the testimonials given have always got a fine print in it. If you really read the proper fine print, it does not say that it will necessarily always create bone for you. It is not always possible. So, what we have to do is treat it with a pinch of salt. It is good, you can work with it. It does give results. It does not give any results, but I find a slightly better material available, which finds my fancy much more than bovine bone, because bovine bone is subject to issues, subject to problems. It has got all the fine structure this is also basically demineralized bone because it is also from a different species. So there are problems with it also, but the problems are not as much as the features which are highlighted so strongly. These features are very good and excellent. We can use them, but as I said, I find something else which is still better than that, and I will come to it very shortly. Now, this collagen is composed of spongiosa granules, which is 10% purified porcine collagen, to which 10% purified porcine collagen has been added. This enables it to tightly adapt to the defect over there, and it is very suitable for periodontal applications. So essentially what it is bone, BioOS with some spongiosal granules of purified porcine collagen that has been added to this. This is what makes it more effective. Just taking the plain, the plain bovine bone from a cow doesn't work. It is to be made into a specific way in a specific process, and then it would work. And it has got a good sponge-like consistency, which permits a perfect adaptation and a very good intimate contact with the bone wall. Now, this to use, it becomes a little more easier than normal, but I again say I have got a better material than this. Now, I'm not against any of these materials that I have spoken about. I'm not against autogenous bone. I am maybe the last on the rung comes DMF DBA. BIOS is very good. I like to use BIOS, but I find maybe some other material gives me a slight edge, a little bit of an edge. And that little bit of an edge makes all the difference when I do my regenerative work in a perio defect. Now, osteograph 300 and osteograph 700 is produced by bovine bone with a non-chemical procedure, etc., 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 etc. And this interrate, etc. And all those things are done to create your final material, which is pretty good and used effectively in periodontal defects. Now there is a small twist added to this. The twist which is added to this bovine bone is to mix it with some other material which is called peptides. That is, P15 is synthetically replicated and it's not the original peptide bone graft material. It is a synthetically replicated P15 material which is added to the bovine bone, and this makes it still gives you the still more bigger edge. So if you want to use bovine bone, you might as well use Pepgen rather than use BIOS. But Pepgen is not easily available in India, so you have to stay with BIOS. BIOS is the only strongly available material in India for periodontal defects and also for implant cases, of course. So maybe you can use BIOS, but if you can get your hands on Pepgen at any point of time, it has a distinct advantage. It is the first material to mimic the inorganic as well as the organic components of natural bone, because the synthetically manufactured P15 which is added to this does the part of organic bone. It is synthetic, so it is fine. There is no organic component in it. There is no issue, no problem. And it consists of, I don't need to go into the details. You also don't need to know the details. Sodium carboxymethyl cellulose. But that's not important. The important part is they have played with the material slightly. They have pushed certain things into the material to make it more adaptive and more functional for periodontal regeneration. And it works excellently well for periodontal regeneration. And it's a good material. Then we have the good old synthetic hydroxyapatite crystals. Now, what is good old synthetic hydroxyapatite crystals? What is bone made up of? All of you know bone is made up of hydroxyapatite. So you take the same thing, you manufacture it synthetically, and you got material. But the idea of putting hydroxyapatite was to simulate bone, to give you something which is very similar to what you're going to achieve. But hydroxyapatite, when given like this, I've just given 2, 3 names over there, but there are at least about 7 or 8 different hydroxyapatites which are available in the market. I don't need to name all of them. They keep on changing all the time. Every 6 months or every year, you have got a new hydroxyapatite which comes up on the market, and one old one goes away, a new one comes up. So these are the issues of hydroxyapatite. But this I am not a great fan of. But I have to mention it because we have to put all the materials which are there as biomaterials in periodontal defect regeneration. So I have to put this material also. Hydroxyapatite has got still more things, properties to it, which are very useful, very beneficial in a certain way, but still, hydroxyapatite, let me tell you one thing very, very clearly. The entire hydroxyapatite which you put in a periodontal bone defect is ultimately resorbed completely. Believe me when I say that, I mean it. It is completely resorbed 100% and replaced by natural bone if luck favors your way. If things happen right for you, it will replaced by, but it will again the same story. If you have got this kind of defect, you fill this up with hydroxyapatite, what you're going to get at the end of the day is only this much. Do you get that? You started here, but you end up over here after 6 months. This is what hydroxyapatite does. And that's the way hydroxyapatite works. There are a number of studies like this. So what they did was the people who worked with hydroxyapatite tried to make it much more easier to use. By the way, if I just want to ask a small quick question. How many of you have worked with hydroxyapatite for bone regeneration? Quick question, Vivek, Nishant.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. How many of you have worked with hydroxyapatite for bone regeneration? Okay. The lag of the time says that not many people have tried it out. Evident, Nishant?
No, sir, not yet.
Yeah, so that means they have not really tried it out. Okay, does not matter. That's not, I don't expect people to try out bone regeneration, but there's a variation which came into hydroxyapatite. It's called Dynagraft. What they did was they made hydroxyapatite in a putty form. When it comes in the form of a putty, what is useful is it can be easier to handle. It becomes very easy to handle and put it in the periodontal defect, and it doesn't immediately flow away with the small amount of blood that we want in the defect. Little bit of blood is wanted in the defect. It doesn't flow away with that. So that's a slight minor advantage of using hydroxyapatite. Then you have got a new material. This material is not available in India right now, but I just still wanted to talk about it. This is made from marine coral exoskeletons that are hydrothermically converted to hydroxyapatite. So again, it is the same, you're playing with the same hydroxyapatite, but in a different form. Its porosity closely resembles human cancellous bone, and it becomes biocompatible because all the organic component is removed totally. This is called as pro-osteon. It had a very big response about 15 years ago when introduced into India, but I don't know. I have not seen it available in the last 5 years at all in India. If it is available, you can give a chance to it, give a try with it, but it's not easily available. Now comes my favorite material. This is a material that I've fallen in love with. I fell in love with it in year 2000, not year 2000, 1999. That's when I started using bioactive glass. Now, what is bioactive glass? Bioactive glass it's commonly called as 4,5-S5 glass. It was created by Dr. Larry Hench. Dr. Larry Hench was a pioneer who created bioactive glass, and he found that the material has such strong bioactivity that he said that we should use it to regenerate bone wherever we want. Initially, Larry Hench is not a dentist. He was a biochemist. A biochemist discovered this material. As I said, it contains 45% silica oxide, 24.5% sodium oxide, and 24.5% calcium oxide, and potassium oxide 6%. It is made by a process of sintering and cracking the glass. So what you do is You put these four materials, it's just purely synthetic material. You take these four chemicals, mix it together, put it through a cycle. I'm not going to go through the details of the cycle, but it becomes glass. You make it into glass and then you break it up. You break it down totally, break it down. And then you're doing what you do is sieve. Sieving means putting it through a filter. So you sieve it, then you get a particular proper particle size. And then you get particle size of two sizes. One is the 90 to 710 micron size, other is the 300 to 355 micron size. What works? According to me, both of them work. According to me, both of them work. Now I would like to give you some small history. The part about autogenous bone not being the gold standard is purely mine. I came up with it after reading a lot of literature. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit about bioactive glass, which is also purely mine. I have worked a lot with it right from, I've been following Larry Hench for a long time, right from 1990. I've been following Larry Hench, and 98 is when I first got to use bioactive glass. And in 2000, I made the first paper presentation in South Korea. It was a poster presentation, sorry, not a paper presentation, a poster presentation in South Korea. And I was so excited with it. So that's how we started working with bioactive glass. Now, bioactive glass, as I told you, comes in two particle sizes, 90 to 710, 300 to 355. I'll tell you some story about this. Let's first look at what does bioactive glass do. Bioactive glass has an ion release capability. It releases the calcium, phosphorus, and silica ions that are essential for bone formation. What I loved about it is these are the building blocks of bone. This is how bone is formed. So these are the building blocks of bone formation, and this causes osteostimulation. Now, one thing is there, for a material to be perfect, it would be osteoinductive. Unfortunately, no material is osteoinductive. So we have to live with the rest. So this has got an osteostimulative quality, which is very useful, and it improves the bone formation, provided you can achieve good, what do we call as a debridement of the pocket, and you got a little bit of bone, blood over there. You mix it up with bioactive glass and it works like a dream. I'll show you some cases. The next is osteoconduction. Perio glass stimulates osteocalcin and alkaline phosphatase production, which when cultured rates works as a much higher value than any other biomaterial. Believe me, I went through all the biomaterials that were available, and I was quite surprised to find that the bioactive glass worked much better than any other material. So that's bioactive glass for you. And then what I realized is that the bonding with the soft tissue takes place upon contact with the tissue fluids. There's a formation of a silica oxide layer, which takes place enhancing the bonding. The calcium and phosphate ions migrate to the surface of the glass and create a calcium and phosphorus rich layer. This layer then crystallizes by absorbing the OH ions from the tissues and forming a hydroxyl fluoroapatite layer. And this attracts osteoblasts to this layer, followed by mineralization. A small teeny weeny osteoblast is attracted to this and multiplicates and replicates a number of times to form bone. This is the building blocks which form or create bone. I'll just go back. I just want to share a small story with you. I'll just go back 2 slides. Just a moment. You saw over here two different particle sizes. Now, why did we get two particle sizes? I just want to share some small story with you about bioactive glass because I've read it so much. I would like to share it with all of you. And since you are hearing my webinar, I will not get such an opportunity to talk to such a large audience. So I'm going to talk to you, all of you, about this unique thing. There were three people who worked for their lifetime in their initial years with bioactive glass. One was Larry Hench, the other was Shapers, and third was Duchesne. So Edward, the Hench, Shapers, and Duchesne published all the papers together. They published about approximately 35 papers together. And then suddenly what I found is, all of a sudden I found that the papers were coming either from Larry Hench or from Shapers and Duchesne. So I realized that there was a split between the two people. The 90 to 710 micron particle size was what was created by Larry Hench. And 300 to 355 was what was had to be created, something different, by Shapers and Duchesne. The first one was called Perio glass and the second one was called Biogran. So this was called Perio glass and the second one was called Biogran. Unfortunately, there were two companies, so it was a good competition between two people. But unfortunately, within 2 years, Biogran was purchased by a third huge multinational company who suddenly decided to kill the product. So Biogran never survived, it never came in the market at all. It never existed, it was not there. So the only bioactive glass which we have got now is Perio glass, which is now called as, which was bought by another company. It's the same material, everything is the same. They just call it Nova Bone. The name of the material is called Nova Bone. Now there has been attempt done by some people to mix bioactive glass with hydroxyapatite, which shows that it gives you an improved mechanical strength, but also enhances the biocompatibility. I personally do not go for it, but I have to tell you about everything. I have to tell you about all the materials that are there and how they benefit and help in regeneration. So I'm giving you a composite whole of everything that is available, but my favorite is bioactive glass. And okay, my favorite is bioactive glass. I'm going to come back to bioactive glass after I show you a couple of other materials. One material is called emdogain. Now, what is emdogain? Emdogain is something similar to or the same as a modified version of citric acid. Citric acid, what is citric acid used for? It is used to rub the surface of the tooth before you close the flap. Or it can be used in combination with the regenerative material which you are putting in the periodontal defect. Now it is a resorbable implantable material which has got hydrophobic enamel matrix proteins which are obtained from porcine embryonic enamel pre-mixed with the solution, and that's how what you do is you rub it. You basically rub it on the periodontal defect like this. You rub it with a cotton pledget. You dip it in a cotton pledget and you rub this emdogain on the tooth surface. And these matrix proteins which are formed mediate the formation of acellular cementum on the root. Now, this is critical, huh? Please. This is a totally different take. What they do is they form acellular cementum on the root surface, which is the most critical thing which is lost during a periodontal damage. When there is a periodontal pocket, it does not just lose the bone, but it also loses the acellular cementum. And the availability of acellular cementum seems to be one of the most critical things in forming a good layer. So what would I do? I would rub the emdogain, or I don't have emdogain available easily in India. It is very expensive. Very, very, very expensive. So what I live with is I cannot use it for every patient. It is impossible. What I do is I burnish it with citric acid. So the emdogain fibroblasts barely attach and spread on the emdogain coated substrata, and they help in the formation of new bone. Alkaline phosphatase activity is also significantly enhanced in the periodontal ligament fibers, and the whole composite thing becomes very good for improving bone. Now, what has been done is I have got a material which is called Emdogain Gel TS, which consists of, this is my favorite material, but I have not been able to lay my hands on it. It is very expensive, not available in India. And right now, I don't even think it is available. But what it is Emdogain with Perio glass, which is what? Which is bioactive glass, the bioactive glass that I want. And this has been done by a friend of this. This is an excellent study which was published by a friend of mine, Dr. Anton Scullion. This name which you see here is a close friend of mine from University of Bern, and he has done this study, and he found this one of the best materials. But I don't think they could really push it further. It did not see light of day. Happens sometimes, but it was a wonderful material to be used. Then there is a material available called physiograft. Physiograft is a mix of polylactic acid and polyglycolic acid mixed with distrain, and it works. It works. It works. It's used as a. It's available as a powder, as a sponge, and also as a gel. I don't really know how well it works. They make a lot of claims, but the lot of claims are just a lot of claims. They don't translate into reality. So I don't really go in, but I should tell you about all the materials. That's why I'm updating you about all the materials that are available. But this is one interesting case, very interesting case which I did. This is a physiograph material which is pushed over there in the defect, and it stays there. And you apply the liquid over it that adheres to it, and you drop the flap on it. Sometimes gives good results, sometimes doesn't give the best of results. So we don't know. There it is. After application of the liquid, this is how the physiograph material looks. We will not discuss much about Atrisob. Atrisob is also a material which is like a membrane material, but we are not going to discuss membrane materials. We'll talk about the other materials, membranes which are there. The most popular material is from Geislich, which is called BioGuide, which is basically type 1 layered collagen membrane. Now, what do you do with this membrane? This membrane is put after you put the bone regenerative material, after you put the biomaterial inside, what you do is you put the membrane on top of it. The idea of the membrane is to prevent junctional epithelium from growing down into the defect. As long as junctional epithelium is prevented from going into the defect, it's like a race. It's a race between four kinds of tissues. What tissues? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, periodontal ligament tissue, and osseous tissue. Now, which is the slowest among this? The slowest is osseous tissue. It takes a long time to grow. Which is the fastest among this? The fastest among this is epithelium. So basically, what is the idea of the membrane? The idea of the membrane is to block junctional epithelium from growing deep into the periodontal defect and preventing a bone regeneration from happening. So that is what the job of the membrane is. Now, what I realized is one excellent way of creating material for regeneration is platelet-rich plasma. It is an easily accessible source of growth factors to support bone and soft tissue healing. Now, where do you get it from? Question to everyone. Nishant. Nishant is there?
Yes, sir, on it.
I'm asking a question to everybody. From
Yes,
where do you
yes, sir.
get PRP? From where do you get PRP? Very simple question, actually. Very easy. Any response?
No, not yet, sir. We will have to.
I think a little bit of a confusion to everybody.
Yeah.
Where does the PRP come from? It's very, very simple and easy actually. Very, 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 very simple and easy. Any responses yet, Nishant?
But yeah, sir. Dr. Ignita Mukherjee says blood.
Yes. Whose blood?
Patient's blood, sir.
Patient's blood. Perfect. Absolutely right. That's the
And
answer I was waiting
we
for.
have similar answers from Dr. Bhagyashree, Dr. Ankit Pani, and Dr. Utsav Mukherjee.
Yeah. So I was waiting for the same answer. Thank you everybody for responding. It feels good to get some responses. It's so nice to hear people talking back. I know the number of people who respond back are less than 1%, but even that is very good. Okay, so PRP is basically what you do is you withdraw blood from the patient, you put it through a cycle in which you separate the water part and the rest of it, and then you get the block when you get the uh, absolute material which from which the water is supernatant has been removed, that is called PRP. And the PRP can be used in the form of a membrane, can be used in the form of a plug in the periodontal defect. Basically, what it does is it stimulates cell replication and healing capacity of stem cells which differentiate into whatever other cells we need. The osteoprogenitor cells are created out of these stem cells. And this amplifies the influence of PGDF and TG beta. PRP appears to jumpstart the beginning of a cascade of regenerative effects that continue to form a mature graft. So PRP is an excellent material when it comes to it, works very well and does a good job. So I use PRP, but I use it in the form of a membrane. Just let's look at it. This is how you take PRP, you put it through a centrifuge. The patient's blood is centrifuged to obtain its platelet mass, which is not necessarily combined. I don't combine it at all today. We don't need to mix it with anything. We just take the platelet mass and use it. And this is how I use the platelet mass. I spread it out and I convert it into a membrane. This is my favorite to use. I use a membrane of PRP above the bone regenerative material that I have put. So this is a unique way of using bone regeneration, of getting good bone regenerative results from a periodontal defect. These are the details. I don't need to read through all the details, but platelet-rich plasma works pretty well in the form of a membrane, and that's how I like to use it. Then we have something called as, this is something I learned from a friend of mine, Dr. Vincent Iacono, who was chair at the SUNY School of Dentistry in New York. He did a lot of work with BMPs. The BMP 12 to BMP 15. It has been shown that these BMPs work very well, but these BMPs are difficult to get. The BMP is obtained from the patient's own blood, but it's put through a complex procedure to get the bone morphogenic protein, which is used along with, there he used it along with hydroxyapatite. I would use it along with perioglass or what is called as Noah bone today. And he did a lot of work on this, and the results were very, very good. So, even with hydroxyapatite, I'm sure if he had done his studies with Periocla, with the Noah bone, his results would have been still more better. Now, what do I see? How do I see these materials? Let us see the materials as what I do with it. This is a defect. I want to show you with a very interesting case that I did. This is a classic periodontal defect. See this big bone loss over here. So this side there is a loss and there is of course a bone loss all over. Here there is not much of bone loss, but here there is a bone loss. On this tooth there is so much bone loss. So what do we do with this? I clean it up, I debride it totally, and I have got a clean site which has got slight oozing. there has to be slight oozing. Without slight oozing, it doesn't work. I have to have slight oozing. What is my next step? The next step, see this. The next step is to fill it up with the bone regenerative material. Now, this bone regenerative material that I have filled up with has got a beauty. This is my favorite material, which is what? Nova bone, or what I used to be called as Perio glass before, but today I still call it I call it Nova bone because that's the new name of the material. Now, one of the beauties of Nova bone or Perio glass is that it causes bone, the bleeding to stop. The small oozing which has taken place stops because of the nature of the material. The material tends to stop the bleeding over there, and you can literally play with the material. It does not flow away with the oozing. It just stays there with the bleeding arrested. It's beautifully staying over there. So I get the possibility to then the next step is to place place the membrane over it. Here is the membrane. So I took a collagen membrane. This is a collagen membrane which I've placed over it, and my job is completed. Ideally, oh sorry, I did not tell you. I go back. These root surfaces have been burnished with citric acid. The root surfaces have been burnished with citric acid. And we got this excellent result. And now we drop the flap and close it, and we hope to get the best possible result for a periodontal defect. Let's see this case which I put on early on, right in the beginning of the presentation. And here is the same defect. See the defect over here.
I need a bit more context to help. Could you describe the defect or upload?
Sorry, there was something happening to my phone. I don't understand why. It suddenly pops up. But this is a defect, big defect. And then what do we do with the defect? This is a totally cleaned out defect. Now you can see the peculiarity of periodontal defects. There is bone in the furcation. There's bone in the furcation, but you lost bone over here. Everybody can see it. You lost bone over here. And then what do we have? What did I put? My favorite, Perioglass or Nova bone as we call it today. See the beauty, how it stays over there. It doesn't run away. This is the beauty of this material. It doesn't run away. It is not like putty also. This is the actual powder material which is put over there, and it stays over there the way we want it. And then you put the membrane. You push the membrane down and you suture it. And I got very good results with this case. So what would I do in the future? Surgical exposure of the defect. I would condition the root with the Emdogain. I'd fill the defect with glass plus BMP, preferably glass only. Membrane coverage with collagen, and put some bone enhancement material there called BMPs. Once I've done all this, I got it all done. Everything is done. And we are all set for the regeneration of a periodontal defect. Otherwise, what you do is, this is what you do to a patient. Difficult patients resolved in this way. But that's just, I'm just kidding about it. I'm coming to the end of my presentation now. This is all done. I've shown you everything about biomaterials. So the perfect biomaterial is ideally should be osteo-inductive, but fine, we don't have any osteo-inductive material, so we live with osteo-conductive and osteo-stimulant. And then we have epithelial deterrent, right? We have got epithelial deterrent with Perioglass. It pushes the junction epithelium from growing into the defect. It should be bioactive. Bioactive glass is very bioactive. and easy to, the most important is it is easy to handle clinically. Makes it very easy to handle clinically. And I just love using this material. This is my material of choice. So I would come to an end for this lecture. And now I'll take up as many questions as you have. Nishant, we are open for questions.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We're just waiting for the questions. In between,
Yeah.
there are like two questions that have come to me, and I will read
Please,
that for you.
please
So
do
one,
that.
I'll kind of read the first one. So it says that how do you use the bioactive glass material to activate blood or saline water?
Sorry, I don't get it. I don't
How?
mix it with anything. Okay, I'll try to answer the question. What
Yes.
I do is, you always have given a local anesthetic. There's some 1 or 2 drops of local anesthetic lying with you. You put 1 or 2 drops of local anesthetic on the bioactive glass, and it makes it into a clump. And you put that clump into the periodontal defect. That's what you do. That answers the question, Nishant?
Yes, sir. So I have another question. So Dr. Sandeep from Guwahati wants to know if mobility is there, what can we do?
If you have mobility, you better splint the case first. Splinting is a method by which you make the tooth stable. You don't allow it to move at all because you've done the splinting. So the tooth has become stable, and then you go ahead and do the regeneration. If you're trying to regenerate on a mobile tooth, nothing will ever work. It's impossible for it to work. So will not work for that.
So the next question is a little
Yeah.
lengthy.
Chalega.
It says, in treating intrabony periodontal defects, what
Yes.
does current evidence show for hard tissue regeneration when comparing biologics like enamel matrix derivative or RHPDGF to
Yes.
cell-based therapies, especially in terms of predictable bone fill and long-term stability? Please explain in detail.
Well, I'll go back 2 slides. This is the answer for your question. Surgically exposing of the defect, root conditioning, root conditioning, where you apply the emdogain on the tooth material. Cost not being a question over here. You apply emdogain, and then you will fill it up with, according to me, glass, bioactive glass. I would fill it up with Perio glass, or what is called as Nova bone. Then I will cover it with collagen membrane. And while doing this, I will mix the HA glass with BMPs. Okay, so sorry, I mentioned BMP here also. I would mix it with BMPs. So instead of putting a liquid local anesthetic, what I would put is a BMP protein in the powder, and then take that powder and put it over there, and then put collagen on top and suture it. That is the best evidence that we have.
So the next question asks that can perio glass be used in indirect sinus lift?
Yes. In fact, we just used it about 15 days ago in a case in the clinic. In a indirect sinus lift. It works effectively. I'm sorry, I don't have the case here right now to show you. But if you want, you can always get in touch with the people from Indochemy, and they will tell me, and I will send you the photograph also of the X-ray.
This question was from Dr. Subham from Bhiwandi, Maharashtra.
Yeah.
Now the next question, sir, comes from Dr. Utsav Mukherjee from Asansol. He wants to know, after placing the bone graft, we
Yeah.
place the PRP membrane. So
Yes.
do we need to put the collagen membrane on top of
Oh,
it
no, no.
for suturing?
No, 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 no. If you are using PRP, then that works as the membrane. So you don't put any membrane on top of the PRP membrane. The PRP is the actual membrane.
Thank you, sir. The next question comes from Dr. Purubhi Chaudhary. She's from Silchar, Assam. So she wants to know, sir, can you enlighten us with a sticky bone? So can you enlighten us with a sticky bone, and can we prepare sticky bone with bioactive glass also?
You know what? Bioactive glass, what is called as Nova bone today, when you put a drop of water on it, it makes a clump. you put that clump over there, it actually behaves better than a sticky bone. I know there are 2 or 3 bioactive materials, not bioactive, 2 or 3 regenerative materials which are sold as sticky bone. But this Noah bone mixed with a small drop of LA works much better than anything else.
Thank you, sir. The next question comes from Dr. Mrinal from North Lakhimpur. He wants to know, is the bioactive glass material good for periimplantis cases? And does bioactive glass granules comes out during vigorous gargling?
No, if you have sutured it properly, nothing comes out. Of course, there's some residual granules here and there, but you don't need to bother about it. You can use it for peri-implantitis. You can use it for regenerating around threads which are exposed. It works excellently well. In fact, it works better in peri-implantitis case, in thread exposure cases rather than periodontal defects. I'll tell you the reason for it. Just give me a moment to explain to you. When you're treating a periodontal defect, the problem there in treating a periodontal defect is that you have got a bone which has to form against cementum. We don't have a root and a cementum. There's directly a implant over there. So there's got one thing less to worry about. So when it works, when you put perioglass or Noah bone against implant material, it works much better.
Thank you so much, sir. That was the end. That was the questions that I had. With this, we will have to kind of thank you once again, sir, for your wonderful session. We had close to 1,500 people who heard you today from all across the country as well as from the adjoining country.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Going ahead, we look forward to such enlightening sessions from you, sir, and definitely next Sunday we have next session coming in from another stalwart from the industry. So, doctors, thank you so much. Yes, Doctor, so much thank you, and once again from Incami, and we thank you for joining us today, and we hope and we look forward to seeing you again on Sunday, next Sunday at 7:30. Yes, sir.
I would like to inform everybody that next Sunday is the lecture on implants, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
So I would like to just tell everybody also, please be there for the implant presentation. It's an excellent presentation by Dr. Saravanan. I'm looking forward to that also.
Thank you so much, sir, and thanks to all participants, and good night to you, sir.
Thank you.